And we are back with another Strode video. And in my opinion, this has one of the top 3 best fight scenes in the whole series. And that is saying something, because the Strode franchise has a lot of fight scenes. And you guys have seen some, but you guys haven't seen the best. You will. Quick reminder though, you guys should please click the subscribe button. I could tell when you don't, so it's really important that you do. I'm trying to grow this community. We continue our story with the freaking private jet pulling up to an airport in Russia. But that's not all that's a mystery, because we are also introduced to a very blonde, tall, lanky-looking woman coming off of this private jet. She apparently had a coffin shipped, and she had it put in our car. And when she got in the car, she just knocked on it, and boom! Strode came popping out like a jack-in-a-box. Apparently, Luthor can use the hibernation technique, so he could just sleep anywhere and he'll be fully recharged when he woke up. But knowing that they were fugitives, this was the best mode of transportation. Strode in the coffin and Petra wearing a wig. But this time, something was different. They were not traveling alone. No, they came with Delilah, the great temptress. Petra obviously didn't like her, just for the sheer fact that she could hypnotize people around her. Men, women, children. But thankfully there were 2. So she bent back to making out with her guns. She's a gun person, because they had a means, or rather they had a mission for being in Russia. The mission was to go see the gardener, one of them, the only person she knows that has their location of Cain. And Luthor had to be very careful being around Delilah. She could control him anytime. But that's why Petra was here. She was there to wake him up, because having Luthor controlled by Delilah is not something they want. So they set off to the snowy mountains, everywhere covered in white. The road was so covered in snow, they had no choice but asking Luthor to clear a path, which he did with one flick of his leg. But that exposed the road, the beautiful road covered in white tiles. But this wasn't just any white tiles, no. This was the skulls of the people that came looking for the gardener. The gardener created a road with the skulls of his enemies. This was the world Petra was in right now, so she had to have a stomach for this type of horrors. She almost threw up, but Delilah was always there to make fun of her, making it clear that she doesn't belong here. But Petra was always going to stay where her man was staying, telling Delilah to screw off. But Delilah was very, very convincing. She almost had Petra, but Luthor woke her up, because right now they could not fight between each other. Right now Luthor had to go ahead, because this guy was such a monster. He was worried they would die. It's best he handles this man himself. But could he? Because as soon as he entered, he saw a nest of weapons of people that came attacking this simple warrior. Before he could move, he heard a voice speaking in Russian. Luthor doesn't speak in Russian, so he asked, "Do you speak English?" The voice just replied in Russian. This is when we see the warrior. Luthor is a big guy, 6'8", but this guy was like 8 feet tall. He was all muscle. He wasn't fat. He was straight up like Luthor, more dangerous in my opinion. Thor made it clear he wasn't here to fight, he just wanted information. But this guy simply just picked Luthor up with one hand, picking him off the floor, ready to remove his head from his body. But Delilah was there to calm him down in Russian. But he wasn't calm, he wanted violence, and violence he will have, tossing Luthor to the feet of his women. And Luthor knew he was coming in with the attack. With one single punch, Luthor got ready to absorb the impact with his whole body. That's how big this guy's fist was. And still Luthor went flying back. He was that strong. So everyone went on the offensive, Petra with her bullets. But this guy's skin was so strong, it was practically impenetrable. Luthor saw this from afar and realized right now Petra was going to become a target. He had to move, and Delilah noticed that Luthor was holding back. Why? Because of Petra. But Petra made it clear that Luthor was just trying to talk to this guy, because all of them didn't have the choice to become this monstrous. He had to find reason. So Delilah made it seem like Petra was in danger. knowing that it would trigger Luthor to become more brutal, and it worked. Luthor attacked him with a tree that broke the sound barrier. He wasn't done. Landing a flying knee to his face, he kept attacking with elbows, fists, but this guy just punched Luthor to the sky. Luthor was quick though, grabbing onto one of the ropes in the trap and coming back down like a bullet, drawing blood for the first time. But this guy was all muscle. He just grabbed Luthor like a toy. Knowing at this moment Luthor might die, Petra tried to shoot. Delilah tried to hypnotize while Luthor attacked from the outside with kicks, punches, but this guy was really not that impressed, tossing Luthor to the ground like a pebble, shattering some bones on impact. Luthor knew it wasn't over. He was still coming because he punched Luthor into the ground with one hand and tossed him over the shoulder while taking Petra's gun and bending it like a twig. This fight needs to end as quick as possible. Delilah tried to hypnotize him, but he just grabbed her face. He was about to squash her face, but suddenly he felt discomfort in his chest. He was seeing his own heart. Luthor had apparently pulled out his heart from his back. We see him bleeding gallons of blood like a freaking fire hose. Adrenaline flowing through Luthor, still holding on to this monster's heart. He thought the fight was over, but nah. He just grabbed Luthor and was choking him out because if he was dying, he was taking Luthor with him, still bleeding gallons. He whispered something before he slowly loosened his grip and dropped to the floor. We learned that this guy was a warrior through and through. He wanted a warrior's death, and what he whispered in Russian was the location of Kane. They had to go to Hong Kong.